Yo, how's it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast. I am your host, Chris, and on the other line tonight, I have my co-host, Jaylen. How's it going, buddy?
What's up, man?
It's going well. How about yourself?
Great.
Yep. Good time to be alive is very much true. So, tonight we are going to be breaking down the Bears' 34-22 win over the Detroit Lions. Pretty good all-around game. We're going to go through basically every aspect of the game and break it down. So, let's get right into it. Normally we start off by just an overview of the game from the offensive perspective and the defenses. So I'm gonna start off. I'll start off with the offense. Jaylen will be able to break down the defense. I'll give you some time to think about that, Jaylen. But just starting on offense against this game, coming into this game, the Bears knew that they had to put points up on the board in order to beat Matthew Stafford. Obviously, without the Lions having Golden Tate, it was going to be harder for the Lions to score. But knowing that, the Bears are still going to have to put up points to beat a team, especially a division rival that we haven't beat in 9 of the last 10 meetings before this one. So coming into the game, obviously another huge game for Trubisky, and oh my goodness, did Mitchell Trubisky answer the call. Let me pull up the stats quickly, but I knew he had 4 touchdowns on his own. As my dogs start barking, I apologize about that. I'm going to go close my door 1 second. But, on that note, Trubisky had an incredible day. He played really well. He was incredibly good under pressure. The pocket was clean for him. I will say the run game wasn't too incredible. Trubisky did have 1 rushing touchdown, but I'm trying to speak as I pull up the stats. But Trubisky threw for 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, and had 3 rushes for 18 yards and a touchdown, and an incredible performance for him. Speaking on the rest of the offense, it was the first time since I think 2016 that 2 Bears receivers had 100 yards receiving. Allen Robinson had 6 receptions, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What a return it was for him. He had the Lions' number 2 cornerback on him. I forget his name, but he was just balling out all night. He had a couple of great catches. And then Anthony Miller, 5 receptions, 122 yards for 1 touchdown. I think he's the best rookie out of this wide receiver draft class. He's been absolutely incredible playing the slot for the Bears. Trey Burton had an okay day. Tariq Cohen had 1 touchdown on the first drive to get it going. Otherwise, the run game was pretty silent, but Trubisky was on top of his game today. Not as many overthrows. He had 148 on the dot, I think it was, passer rating, so it was incredible for him. Before we move on to the defense, Jaylen, you want to say anything about the offense?
The offense has been playing well this last month. We're averaging over 30 points. We have a top 10 offense and a top 10, I think actually top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. So for us to win games and to be a good team in this league, we got to be consistent on both sides of the ball, and that's what we're doing.
Totally. Trubisky's quarterback rating was 148.6 today. Looks like he didn't have as many overthrows. There were probably a couple more throws he could have hit on. I would like to speak about one play that he made in the fourth quarter. The game got a bit quirky in the fourth quarter. I think the Bears kind of let up on defense a little bit. Jaylen can speak about that when he talks about the defense in a second. But one really special play. Trubisky's legs, I think, don't get enough credit. As I said, 3 rushes for 18 yards and a touchdown. He had an 8-yard run on 3rd and 8 inside our own territory where we would have given Detroit the ball back when they were down by 12 with like 5 minutes to go. He had an incredible scramble for 8 yards. Overall, just his ability, and I keep seeing it every day. I would really compare Trubisky to either, I would say, like a Carson Wentz, or I'd say like a Cam Newton. He's hitting his throws. It's just going to be about his overthrows for him. That's really what it boils down to, but I was really impressed with him today. 11 to 12 yards per throw, 23 for 30. He didn't throw it as much as he had in some previous games. I know against the Buccaneers he had thrown it for 50 times. But a really good day for him on the completion end. And he was only sacked once, so I'm pretty happy about that. Any more comments on the offense, Jaylen, or did I cover most everything?
You talked about mostly everything.
Also, big catch today for Ben Broniker, I will say. He had a good
that
catch.
was a nice scramble by Trubisky, to get out from the pressure and deliver a dot.
Yeah, Taylor Gabriel had the 0 receptions for 0 yards. It seems like today we were only hitting Gabriel on those long seam routes is what we were going for today. That really seems like it was it as far as his day went. Just going for those long bombs. He had one in the end zone that I thought he could have caught, but it was actually pretty good coverage by Detroit. Jaylen,
before you finish, that was a great throw by Trubisky.
Yeah, and it was a great throw and even better pass coverage. So sometimes you gotta clap your hands for the opponents. Jaylen, why don't you take it over and talk about how the defense played today?
This defense has played like the defense that we know it is. A great defense that delivers pressure and causes turnovers. We were good for the first half, including the third quarter. We allowed another rushing touchdown, but that is okay because it was a pass interference call in the end zone. And we still held them the two downs, and they finally got it on third inches. So this defense has played good. Now I'm not mad at the defense, but on that Kerryon Johnson fumble by Prince Mukamara, we put him back into Lions territory, and the offense didn't manage to do anything.
And oh my God, Cody Parkey. Yeah, we'll talk about Cody Parkey later, but I wouldn't be surprised if his house went up for sale tomorrow because he might be out of a job tomorrow. But
I doubt he'd get cut in the presser. Nagy said.
Yeah, Nagy was pretty confident with him. But if we talk about special teams for a second, 0 for 2 for field goals, 2 for 4 for extra points. It was windy, but I would say that's no excuse for Cody Parkey. He missed a 41-yarder, a 32-yarder. And 2 extra points, and if you look at Matt Prater, the Detroit kicker, he made a 55-yarder in this win. So, terrible day for him. Whether it be this year or next year, I think the Bears are going to have to look at getting a new kicker. The kicking woes continue for the Bears.
I couldn't hear you cracking up. What you say?
Sorry, I just said whether it be this year, cutting Parkey and signing someone new, or next year building through the draft or signing someone new in free agency, I said I think we're going to have to get a new kicker after that performance.
I don't know. We signed into a big contract for him, or a big contract for a kicker for him to make those. So I've been on Cody Parkey's side, and he was trash, especially from that Miami game. But Nagy put him in a bad situation. It was a 53-yard field goal under pressure. So I don't blame him for that game. But then again, it's no excuse. You got to hit your kicks.
Totally.
If this was a closer game, that we could have definitely been put in a bad situation.
Similar to the Detroit Green Bay game with Mason Crosby missing all those field goals that actually ended up losing them that game. If Trubisky wasn't as on fire today, that could have ended up happening. The score really, if we're looking at it, if Parkey makes all those field goals, the score is 42-22, which is a much bigger difference than 22 to 34. 12 points, 20 points.
Continuing on about for the defense, we got Khalil Mack back. He had 2 sacks this game.
Leonard Floyd had a sack today.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd finally got his first sack, and he celebrated like he just won the lottery or something like that. Like they was giving him high fives, but that's a great thing to see.
Can I read some stats off quickly? Do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the day, the Bears had 59 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 6 sacks on Matthew Stafford, 7 quarterback hits, or 7 passes defended and 8 quarterback hits. If I can cut it for a second, one person I would like to talk about is Roquan Smith. 10 tackles for him today, along with a sack, 1 pass defended. Vic Fangio earlier this week challenged him to be better in pass coverage, and overall today he was much better in pass coverage. So, one person I would like you to talk about, just because I know he was incredible today, Jaylen. Speak a bit, if you can, about Brice Callahan's performance today.
Brice Callahan has played like a Pro Bowl corner. Him and Kyle Fuller.
Totally,
Now, Kyle Fuller has struggled some games, but our whole secondary, except like Prince, is playing like Pro Bowlers. Now, Brice had an amazing game.
2 passes defended in 5. 1 sack, 1 sack. For him, 5 tackles, 1 sack, 2 passes defended, and an interception.
That's great stats from a nickel corner. The reason why he's not on a long-term contract is because Pace feels like he can't stay healthy, and even though he's played good the last couple of seasons, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. And
And this season,
availability.
I mean, if you look at it, he kind of reminds me of Fuller, where the potential was there, and he was just kind of shaky. And then look at Fuller last year compared to Callahan this year. They really are stepping up in their contract year, and it's a great thing to see. I expect Brice Callahan to be signed to a long-term extension this offseason. I think it would be crazy if we didn't retain him. Yeah, and Amakamura was good as well. He had an interception on a pass that probably should have been batted down on fourth down, but it's totally it's good. It's good to see him play well. He had 8 tackles and 2 passes defended. So you love to see it, honestly. Eddie Goldman also with a sack today. A pretty good overall day for the defense.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Amazing play by the
Yeah.
defense. So
we're going to head into offensive and defensive MVPs. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. Jaylen, who is your MVP today?
The Mac attack. He came back and delivered 2 sacks. The pass rush hasn't been here in the last couple weeks when I'm gone. Other than last week where we had I think we had 4 sacks, but the other games like Miami, New England, and the Jets game, it really wasn't no pass rush. So for him to come back and deliver 2 sacks is just great.
Totally. I'm gonna go with Roquan Smith for my defensive MVP. He stepped up the last couple weeks. I would say probably since the Miami game, he's been starting to get a lot bigger of a role. And with Nick Kwiatkowski's role kind of being, I wouldn't say diminished, but definitely limited as Roquan's become the starter. 10 tackles today, a sack for him, a pass defended. He was overall incredible today, so kudos to him for stepping up and playing real well. On offense, I'm going to start off with my MVP. I'm going to go with the one, the only, Allen Robinson. If you look at Jaylen, you can do the same one if you want, but if you look at it, Jaylen obviously said Khalil Mack. I said Allen Robinson. 2 players who this week we've been harping on it that their returns were going to be huge in this game and in the conference games to come up, or the divisional games to come up. They both stepped up today. Allen Robinson obviously was incredible. 6 receptions, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now I will say he's got 2 hard weeks in front of him with Xavier Rhodes next week, and then probably a healthy Darius Slay when we play Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. But he proved today that he was the number 1 wide receiver, and he was worth every penny that we brought him in for. He did an incredible job exploiting his matchup today, and I was really proud of what I saw from him.
So I'm pretty sure this is MVP that's not named Mitchell Trubisky.
Okay.
So even though you stole Allen Robinson, I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna do 2 people. I'm gonna go with Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller. They stepped it up big time in this game, especially like you said, Allen Robinson, him coming back from an injury and putting up 2 touchdowns with over 130 yards. And Anthony Miller,
5 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown for him, with a long of 55 on one of his touchdowns. Actually, no, that wasn't his touchdown. His touchdown was 45, but he also had a catch. I think it was in the 4th quarter on one of the scoring drives. That was a 55-yard catch.
Now, even though he hasn't had over, I want to say 60 yards other than this game, the play he's making plays without you noticing. He's getting separation. In a lot of the games where he was targeted a lot, Trubisky just overthrew him because he didn't expect him to get that wide open. In the Miami game, he had nobody in sight for his touchdown that put us up. So Anthony Miller was a great addition. I'm glad we traded up for him. That second round pick we gave up was definitely worth it. It was worth every penny of it.
Yeah, totally.
He's gonna be the
if you look at the receivers that have come out of his class, you got him, Cortland Sutton, and Calvin Ridley at the top of that class. And I would say Calvin Ridley's been pretty good. Cortland Sutton's also been decent. He's getting a bit bigger role in Denver with with Demaryius Thomas being traded to the Texans. But Anthony Miller's up there as I would say the best receiver in that class, if I had to say so myself. He's been great. Next, we're gonna head into the deciding factor of this game. We're each going to talk about one factor that we thought decided that led to the Bears win. I'm going to start off here. I harped on it the entire week, keeping Kerryon Johnson to a pretty short game, and the Bears did a pretty good job of that. In the games that they had lost, Kerryon Johnson had rushed for less than 35 yards. Today he had 14 carries for 51 yards and a touchdown, most of that coming in the 4th quarter. Overall, the Detroit Lions, 76 rushing yards. LeGarrette Blount, who can sometimes be a force in games like this, he was eliminated, and he only had 4 rushing yards on the day. So great job to the run defense. Roquan Smith specifically had some great tackles on Kerryon Johnson today. They shut it down, and they didn't let them get it going on the ground. So that was a great job to them, and I think that might have led to them winning the game, I would say, honestly.
My deciding factor would be the offense. The offense went 4 for 4 in the first 4 drives, putting up 26 points. But it should be 28, but the mixed extra points.
Let's not talk about Cody Parkey.
That's a key factor on why we won this game so big, because of the offense starting off so high.
Yeah, totally. Matt Nagy said throughout the year that this offense is going to come out and be aggressive. They've been shaky throughout the year, other than the Tampa Bay game, but they kept their foot on the gas pedal in this game, and they definitely stepped up. And speaking of stepping up, heading into our next segment, who stepped up? We got one player on offense, one player on defense who stepped up in this game. I'm going to start with you, Jaylen. Who stepped up on offense in this game?
Anthony Miller.
Thanks for taking
like
mine.
I said, he hasn't got that many yards, but his presence is there. In this game, you felt his presence. You felt his presence with big gains and completely destroying the coverage of the Lions. So that's my player who stepped up.
Okay, yeah. For me, stepped up, I'm going to say the Bears' offensive line. Obviously, Kyle Long going out a couple weeks ago with a big injury against the Jets. That's big. And you look at the guys who are playing well in the offensive line. James Daniels is playing incredibly well at his left guard position. Cody Whitehair is looking a lot more calm at the center position. Trubisky was sacked one time today. You can't really complain about that no matter who you're playing. So the offensive line, I would say, stepped up and did a great job in protecting Trubisky today. Heading into sorry, do you want to say something?
No, I was saying like agreeing with you.
Okay, yeah. Heading on to defense, I'm going to go first if you don't mind. I'm going to say Brice Callahan stepped up today. He was assigned with a pretty tough task. He was switching between Marvin Jones, Kerryon Johnson throughout the day. And I would say he did a pretty good job. Obviously, he had that interception where he jumped the route. I think that was a throw to Kerryon Johnson. And he had a sack. I like when they bring him off the edge with a blitz. It's a little bit risky, leaving a receiver wide open. And also 2 passes defended for him. He was incredible today. So I would say Brice Callahan definitely stepped up in this game.
Mine would probably be Leonard Floyd and his 1 sack on the year so far. But realistically, I'm going to go with Roquan Smith. He stepped up these last 2 games with 23 tackles in 2 games. That's why we drafted him number 8 overall, for him to be that dominant force alongside Andrew Reed, and for him to stop runners in this NFC North like Aaron Jones, like a Dalvin Cook, like a Kerryon Johnson. So he stepped up this game.
Totally. So finally, our final segment is going to be things to improve on. Looking at the next week, we've got the primetime game against the Minnesota Vikings. We're not going to get really into the logistics of that. We'll obviously have an entire series coming out on that next week. But overall, things to improve on. I'll start off. I think Jaylen's probably going to have some similar things to say to me. But overall, just the special teams play. I'm going to harp on 2 things. Number 1, the onside kick that happened in the 4th quarter. First off, Anthony Miller batted the ball out of bounds, which was kind of funny. But turns out you can't do that. That's illegal batting. That honestly was, I hate to say it, but it was kind of a boneheaded play on his part. Considering that was completely intentional, not like hit off his hand or something, and then allowing them to recover it after that in general when they had another chance and we knew it was coming. I thought that was pretty sloppy, and also Cody Parkey, man. Cody Parkey actually said earlier this week that he never kicks at Soldier Field itself because it's a commute for him. He's got to step up. That's just embarrassing. And in games with teams like Minnesota, where you know it's going to be a grind of a game, unless the Bears come out and absolutely destroy them, which I wouldn't expect. Minnesota's pretty good. It could come down to a couple points, and Cody Parkey missing field goals just really can't happen going forward. We paid him a lot to make some field goals.
Yes. I'm going to go with, well, since you said Cody Parkey, I don't want to be repetitive. I'm going to go with the defense closing games. This is the NFL. I know we were up a lot in the 4th quarter, but you can't just give up or let some plays out because we were upset by so much. But any given play, they could come down and drop a 60-yard bomb for a touchdown, and then come back and get off that kick and do it again. You don't want that to happen. I saw like a stat like a couple weeks ago where we allowed the most points in the fourth quarter, which is you would think we would.
Which is crazy considering that we're the number one ranked defense in the league with the most points allowed in the fourth quarter. That just seems like kind of seems like those two don't fit with one another.
Yeah, but that's what I'm gonna go with. We play the Vikings next week, and like you said, I doubt we get a big lead. But if we do, we cannot give them we cannot wait up and let Kirk Cousins and Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, etc. come back and score points because it might just get ugly.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this episode of the Bear Down podcast. You got anything else to say, Jaylen?
We 6-3. Let's play on Sunday Night Football and kick some purple, Peter.
Totally. Yeah. That's pretty much going to do it. You can find our social medias personally. My name's Chris. His name's Jaylen. You can find our social media, our Bears fan pages individually in the description. You can follow the podcast social media on Twitter and Instagram at Bear Down. And if you did enjoy this episode of the Bear Down podcast, it would be awesome if you left a comment, if you liked, if you subscribed, turn post notifications on, all that. We love the support that we're getting on the videos. We get some good comments every week, and it's awesome. And we're having fun with it. Obviously, the Bears are playing well, so the grind's going to continue. And that's pretty much going to do it. Anything else to say, Jaylen? We're 6-3. You already said that. Bear Down, Chicago. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.